Hey, anybody got about $4 trillion sitting around we could use? You're watching Techstrong, gang. Hey, everyone. Happy Thursday. It's time for Techstrong, gang. Man, I love doing this show. Glad you can join us. We've got a lot to talk about, including an IT market set to go over $4 trillion well, in this year alone, which is a record. We'll talk more about it. We got other good stuff, but we got some really good people to talk about this stuff with. Let me introduce you. We have our friend Guy Currier.
Hello. Good to be here.
Good to see you, Guy. And we have, she's not usually on, she's not in her brick wall today. She's traveling, but our cyber snooper, Teri Robinson, Mitch Ashley, and of course, the man from Silicon Valley, Jon Swartz. Gang, welcome. Thanks for coming on today. Of course, you're not here in our offices in Boca Raton. Guy was in the vicinity. Our Guy sniffer lit up that he was in the vicinity, but wasn't able to make it in. Next time. So, gang, IDC's out with a report that for 2025, not next year, projection, this year, actual spend, the IT market is set to hit about $4.25 trillion with a T dollars. Strongest year-over-year growth since going back to 1996, which was interestingly, was the beginning of the commercial.com era. So maybe there's something to that. John, why don't you kick us off on this? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I also thought that jumped out at me, 1996 comparison. So there's like this parallel about where we are in the stage of AI, perhaps. So the number is 14% increase this year to 4.25 trillion. And then there's a separate number that takes into account IT spending plus telecommunications and business services, which is IDC refers to as ICT, which will approach 7 trillion this year. Again, it's worldwide spending. It's largely driven by AI. One thing that's interesting that shows the growth from IDC's point of view is that they have updated this 7 straight months. They've been revising their numbers, their projections, which shows an escalation in spending according to them. Now, they did note that the pace of growth is going to slow to 10% in 2026, but that's still one of the strongest years since the 1990s. And they did acknowledge this expected memory component shortage, which could drive up PC prices. They also mentioned potential headwinds in the economy. But again, it's a pretty impressive number. I think earlier in the green room, we were discussing this a bit. And perhaps I think Mitch is going to point out that this number might be underestimating the actual growth. One other thing I'm going to mention before I pass it on to Mitch is that yesterday I talked with John Chambers, who was the CEO of Cisco for about 20 years. And I asked him about the report and this idea of this AI super cycle. And he says he actually thinks things are going to accelerate in 2026. And he pointed out a couple of things, including potential IPOs, OpenAI, Anthropic, SpaceX, etc., and more mergers and acquisitions, since they're being rubber stamped right now. So pretty heady times right now, but again, it's a volatile market, and perhaps, as Mitch will probably point out, this number might be actually low.
Yeah, these numbers are both analyst projections as well as kind of analysis current market. It all depends on how you define what worldwide IT. So that may be some of the difference. Our number for 2025 is 5.1 trillion. I think Gartner's is around 5.4, 5.5, something in that. And I think folks are kind of landing around that 10% growth number next year, which per chambers. Maybe it is higher than that. I think it kind of more interesting is when you dig down into, okay, so what well, that's the spend. What are we spending on? What are the drivers of that growth? And of course, AI comes to the top of the list, not surprisingly, but infrastructure in cloud and also modernization is second in the growth drivers in our analysis, followed by cybersecurity. Now, sometimes cyber ends up number one on the budgeting as well, but we're looking at what are your top investment priorities for 25 and 26. So followed, you'll like this, Alan, platform engineering and developer productivity, data management, enterprise modernization for applications, things that we know well about what we're doing. They're not surprised by any of those. There's no new thing on the list kind of jumping up like AI did.
To me, though, the question is AI Snow White and is everything else the Seven Dwarfs?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know cybersecurity is right up there with AI in terms of investment. Not talking about the data center build, but
Yeah, but so is the data center build in that number, Mitch?
I believe it is.
And does that go under AI or no? Like these AI factories?
That's infrastructure. That's infrastructure.
I bet you because it's AI that's spurring that infrastructure build out.
Yeah, I'll check real quick where if it is okay. While we're talking, I'll look at it and let you know.
Yep.
Well, I think none of these, exist in isolation, obviously, but even less than before, even pre-AI, an infrastructure build, or new applications, or more cloud, or more SaaS, or all these kinds of trends that we've seen. I think those lead to more potential, more focus on security as well, right? So with AI, I mean, how much of the cloud growth, spending growth, is really AI related in one form or another, whether it's data or hosting
and that's
applications
my
or
point,
development?
Guy. I think AI is a component, including in security for that matter. But when we're talking about security, as a longtime security person, I'm so tired of this. Right? For as long as I've been in security, we're always one of the top 3 priorities. We're going to put that budget in its place. And then all you hear from CISOs is, I don't have enough money to do what I got to do. They don't want me to buy the shiny new trinket. We are strapped for resources. Let's take some money from the developers. They got a lot of budget. It's the old
Are you
T-Rex
talking,
arms.
Alan? Hold on. Are you talking about the aspirations versus reality gap?
Yeah.
Because our own research showed, the Futurum's own research showed that cybersecurity is a top driver of additional spend.
Cybersecurity is always a top priority.
Yeah. So you're saying that when the reality comes around, it turns out it wasn't as much, or you saying, I always say that, but where's the actual growth?
Well, there is the T-Rex syndrome where the arms are too short to reach their pockets.
I bet that only happens at Morton's Steakhouse. Okay.
Yeah, well, only when I'm out with the analyst, Mitch. But anyway,
I'll write
we're
about
so
you.
used to someone else paying for their dinner.
I kind of feel like I just want to provide one perspective here. I mean, I've been doing this kind of market research for my whole career, pretty much 20, 25 years, and over and over again, year after year, like you're saying, Alan, there is this strong desire among the CISO and security and IT community to invest more in security, and there was always from the same folks saying they wanted to spend more, reporting that the business units and the executive teams and the board don't really understand the need. It's the can that keeps getting kicked. However, among these boards, so here's my point. Among these boards and executives now, I think there actually is more awareness of security issues because of AI, among other things, and there's more fear, and there may be more support for growing security budgets. Finally,
look, we could do a whole session on this, but let me just hit some of the big things here. Number one, there is the perception that the security people are the boys who cried wolf, right? They're always talking about impending doom and catastrophe. It doesn't happen. And then the money they gets squandered on the shiniest, newest gadget that turns out to be some really nice paperweight shelfware. And it's not really used. And then next year they're looking for the next shiniest, newest gadget, number 2. Number 3, there's the old FUD argument that they go to the board and say, how do you look in stripes? Because if you don't do this, you're going to jail. And they extort money that way. But then there's also a different dynamic here, which is talk business to me. Don't tell me how many intrusions or vulnerabilities or the severity of my CVEs or how AI is resulting in X amount more phishing attacks and spear phishing. I want to know, what's my risk? What's my exposure? How much can I lower my risk by spending this amount of money? And that's a very difficult equation, even for a CISO, the best of the CISOs, to formulate.
I think that's right. And I've been speaking a lot lately with CISOs, about this and sort of the issues with the board and being able to talk. I had one tell me just this week, like you can't go in there and talk bits and bytes. You can't go in there and talk, attack vectors and all of this. You have to really speak to them where it counts. And one of the interviews I did recently with somebody who's a CFO, she argued that the CFOs and general counsels and CISOs need to work together and present some sort of, united front and really be able to talk about risk and be able to talk about the legal, liability and danger, and that maybe, that's the way to get the boards, invested. And
To your point, Terry, one of the recommendations I had from somewhere along the way was, don't go do your own financial analysis. Go and enlist the CFO or someone from finance. Have them do it. Put it in the same exact format, same way we do everything else. That way, the ROI, the capitalization, whatever you're talking about, it's not, because executives love to find errors in your spreadsheets and your numbers and your charts,
right.
right? It's kind of a little game.
Yeah.
Seems like that's played. But, use those people. They want to help you. It's a great way to get some buy-in along the way, too.
And a lot of those people are becoming more well-versed, I think, in cyber and in, tech. But like the CFO that I talked to had a good background in working for tech and cyber companies. And, sort of, it was an area of interest for her as well. And, I think you're finding more people like that. I think the other issue is too, like if you don't have an incident, because okay, you've spent a lot of money, you've gone to your board, you've gotten money, you spend on, your cyber solutions or whatever, and then you don't have an incident, whether it's because of the purchases you made or just sheer luck, then they're less likely to want to give you more because they're like, oh, well, nothing's happening, we're fine.
That's
We
the
haven't
problem in
had it.
security. When nothing happens, you did your
Happens,
job.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
but let's
One thing
so
that
much. There's a lot more in here than security. I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say the one thing that I always have to give pause to is when these reports are put together. And I was thinking about DataQuest back in the day, or even Gartner to a lesser extent. The companies that they are covering are sometimes clients, and they are providing some of the information. And I'm thinking in terms of infrastructure spends, like are some of these numbers being baked in from some of the big tech companies who have made these inordinate promises to spend tens or hundreds of billions of
I would
dollars in
assume,
infrastructure?
though, this is money that was spent. This is not projections.
Well, I can tell you
Yeah.
what's in our numbers, and imagine folks follow something similar. I went to the Futurum Intelligence platform and looked it up. It does not include building, shell, HVAC, land, all the kind of physical plant stuff, but it does include power infrastructure, UPS, oftentimes. It doesn't always have to, but on-site software, any hardware, direct hardware cooling.
So it
data
doesn't
center
include the construction then, Mitch, is what
No,
you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
So that's at least how our numbers work. So I imagine folks have some variation of that.
But let me make an analogy here, though, John. You hit on it earlier, right? This is the strongest growth since 1996, which is very funny. 1996, I launched TriStar Web Creations, my first real tech company, not a hobby. And it was the beginning. Netscape, I believe that's the year Netscape came out.
It is.
Yep, it is. You're right.
And if you think about it, it took until 2000 for that bubble to run its course.
And Netscape was roadkill within a few years.
Yeah,
Right?
well, as soon as
Microsoft
Internet Explorer,
had
as soon as it
sites.
got in
Yeah.
Microsoft sites.
Right. But I mean, it's eerie though to me, like this timeline. But this is an accelerated timeline, I think.
Right. So
compared to
yeah,
the
time
internet
is
era.
crunched now. I don't think we're going to see
Right.
4 years, but we're
Right.
liable, back to John Chambers' prediction. 2026 is not going to be a year if this thing bursts, but maybe 2027. Just in
Yes.
time
Or
for
maybe
our next
2025.
election
There's still a
cycle.
few weeks left.
Always the optimist
I don't know, you-
guy.
Such a
Yeah.
Well, I no, but I'm mindful of how everything in this particular tidal wave, that was the internet tidal wave or wave, but this particular AI tidal wave, everything seems accelerated. Everything seems to
It
go
is, yeah.
faster.
Right.
So
I think
really
it's
could
also
be next year.
accelerated, Guy. It's also accelerated because of not just AI, but the vendors coming out with AI capabilities, like in the development space. All the things we hear from Google, Microsoft, AWS. So developer tools for creating platforms for operating agents. There's a lot of product coming out, and that, of course, gives people the shiny objects you were talking about, Alan, not just in security, but in AI too.
So, a Harness, Mitch, you may know this. I'm not sure if the rest of the panel knows. Harness announced this morning a huge $240 million round on a $5.5 billion valuation. And I thought it was very interesting. I spoke with Jyoti Bansal, the CEO founder of Harness, former founder of AppDynamics. And he said, Harness is all in on AI. They actually rolled out a platform, Harness AI. And his point is he's bringing AI to everything after the code. So in other words, there are already people helping the developers use AI and AI generating code. But AI is not just for generating code. AI is going to empower and power the entire CD and observability chain as well. So
This is the conversation we were having the other day. I think it was maybe yesterday of, are we going to see, is security finally showing up earlier in the life cycle? And some of it is during code, right? Things like guardrails and behavioral controls that might be agents. But Hartz has got a great story around AI and deploying and operating, especially around observability and automation. They've got a lot of great things that have already come out.
No, but I love that slogan, right? It's AI for everything after the code.
Yeah, it's really clear where they're playing.
Right, testing, everything else. Guys, we're overtime on this one. I got to take a break here. We're going to come back and we're going to talk more AI, but the EU's putting the brakes on maybe. You're watching Techstrong, gang.
You've earned it. The spotlight, the responsibility, the weight of teams, companies, and entire industries fall on your shoulders. Lives depend on your decisions, your home life included. At work, you're protected, physically and digitally. Nothing gets through your team without a fight. But in a globally connected world, everyone sees you, including those who mean to cause you and your organization harm. And now home, your sanctuary. Attackers see an opportunity. Your digital front door is wide open. And what compromises your home can breach your boardroom. Because the devil's greatest trick isn't targeting your workplace firewall. It's convincing you that your personal life isn't at risk. Black Cloak. Digital executive protection, defending the new attack surface, your personal life.
We have a sense of deja vu going on with Google. The European Union regulators have launched an antitrust investigation to determine if Google has abused its market dominance with AI services that exploit content creators and harm competitors. If this sounds familiar, it's because the EU has been at war with Google for years and fined them billions of dollars. I'm going to keep this short, but basically, the European Commission is scrutinizing Google's use of web publishers' content and YouTube videos for AI purposes through two means: AI overviews, which generates automatic summaries atop these search results, and AI mode, which delivers chatbot style responses to queries. It's going to be interesting because this is an escalation of antagonisms between the Commission and Google, which in turn could actually lead to some repercussions on the part of our government. But I'm going to pitch it over to Mitch to get his comments, because there is a focus on Google and what it's been doing, but I also think there's also rumors and talk and reports of other investigations into things like WhatsApp AI policies in Europe, and there was a fine against X in Europe. So I'm just wondering if this is a fodder for more things to be discussed and be concerned about with AI.
I think we'll definitely have a lot more things to talk about with EU investigations. This is deja vu all over again. Do you remember the search results being biased in favor of Google? How did that happen? Algorithms. Oh, yeah, those, they're innocent things. That doesn't happen. I think that the same kind of thing is happening with AI summaries and AI search in the search results, driving that. And they're in some ways, when you're using models that you developed, I mean, we've seen with Grok and what XAI kind of results will produce about their founder and saying great things about him. So there is bias built into these models too. So it isn't always just the algorithm. It is also could be underlying bias built into the generative AI models themselves. So I think we're going to get a lot of scrutiny on the output, especially when they're at a tightly integrated stack like Google is, when they're a model producer as well as the infrastructure, cloud, and all this software stack above it.
I just want to say that there may be less bias built into the models, Mitch, and much more built into the prompts. Prompts are a lot more audible.
Yeah, very good point there too. Yeah, you can certainly bias it that way.
Yeah, I mean, when you type a search in, any of these search engines, I mean, Bing, DuckDuckGo, whoever it is, there's that AI box that pops up. There's a prompt being added to your search, obviously. And that's kind of where the danger is, because, any old exec or who has access to that prompt can, make a change and put it into production. I mean,
build it into the system prompt, and then everything will be biased.
And the user, not only does the user not see it, but I would venture a guess that 99.9% of users aren't even aware that that's what's going on. And meanwhile, model training or tuning to provide bias, as well as to reduce bias, that's an expensive and long endeavor.
Yep. But much harder to ferret out if you do it.
I got two things.
Totally.
I'm a conspiracy theorist. I know they're doing this. They've been doing this for years. I'm just kidding.
So, deja vu all over again. That sounds like a yogiism to me, no?
I just said that.
It is a yogiism. Yes.
Okay.
Let's get more Alanisms.
You did.
Give us an Alanism.
That's a yogiism.
I just said that.
But that being said, that being said here, it's so funny how life fates and the current of events, not current events, but the current of events play. Just last week, everyone was touting Google. Google's in the catbird seat. They've got this vertically integrated stack for AI that no one can compete with. AWS can talk about their agentics, and Microsoft's a good second, but Google's in the catbird seat with this integrated model. And now here we are a week later, and the EU saying not yet, right? Maybe not. Hold on here. And what does this mean? I mean, I don't think they're going to break up Google, right? They've been dancing this dance with Google now for years and years. And Google just seems to write the check and keep doing what it does. And they'll probably wind up doing that here. But it just goes to show you how fluid, the current events here are, right? From week to week, day to day, how things and fortunes change.
It's funny that you said that, because that's exactly what John Chambers was talking about this yesterday. He was talking about the 3 companies that are best positioned in terms of AI. And he mentioned that Google is one of them. And he said, a year ago, they were not even close. They were caught flat-footed by Microsoft, and they were scrambling because now they're in the catbird seat, which again, it just kind of underscores how quickly things are moving in this space. And you're on the outside looking in, you're the inside looking out. And so maybe that got the EU's attention, but Google always has their attention.
Yeah. Are they as an American, tech company, or have they gotten the most fines from the EU?
Yes.
Or is it-
Yes. It's not even close, right?
Yeah, it's
There
like
seem to be a
billions,
particular
right?
obsession with them. Yeah.
Yeah, they seem to be focused on them.
It is what it is. I'll just say this to end my piece of it, sticking with my friend Yogi. It ain't over till it's over.
Is it ever over, though? I mean,
All right.
that's
We're going to
typical.
take a break. Let's come back here and we're going to talk a little bit about ghost payments. You're watching Techstrong, gang.
Discover Techstrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with Techstrong Group.
the folks at the BBB, Better Business Bureau, sent out an alert recently on ghost tap scams. And there's been a proliferation of being able to, pay from things from your phone or tap your credit cards or whatever. And as you can imagine, the scammers are all over that. I don't think it comes as any surprise to anybody. But these things are sensitive. The technology that's used to communicate from device to device can be exploited, and that's what these guys are doing. Some of the scams are straight up. Somebody might show up at your door saying that they're collecting money or selling candy bars for some charity. You tap, and they charge you more than they said. It's on the consumer at that point, I guess, to be vigilant and check the receipt, which a lot of people don't do. They just tap and go, or to check your bank accounts or whatever to make sure that you were charged with. But the kind of scarier thing, or the thing that's a little bit more difficult, is when you tap and you don't know it, right? Especially like with credit cards in your pocket. It's probably evidence that you should have some sort of Faraday contraption bag, whatever. Your credit cards can tap without you even knowing it, which kind of brings me to what we were talking about in the green room earlier. I had this incident and so I'm glad this is on the agenda today. When I was visiting Saint-Tropez a couple of years ago, and I was buying something in a market, and there are lots of vendors, but they're not these small booths. They're sort of, bigger spaces. And I was getting ready to pull out my credit card, or as I was pulling out my credit card to tap, the vendor was standing probably, I don't know, 6, 7, maybe more feet from me. And I was going to walk over to her and tap. And it tapped without me even, I barely had it out of my pocket, and I was a great distance from her. And I actually jokingly said to her, "You could just go out in the crowd and, you know, just tap, 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 and get all these people that are walking by. They'd never know that you were charging them for, whatever your goods and services." Well, that is one of the things that the BBB is warning against, that these kind of proximity taps, and you don't know that you've been a victim until you receive a bill.
Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's a credit card ghost tap, you're protected in the United States, at least, by this law from the 70s, whose name I forget, that against
Right.
credit card fraud, that the credit
Yes.
card company itself is liable. But if it's an app,
Then you're not.
no protection
Yeah.
because yay.com. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. And I mean, you look at some of the things that went on with Zelle, a couple of years ago, and the scams that were there, which were a little different than just, like, say, the ghost tapping thing. But that's when we became painfully aware, right, that through those apps, you're not protected the same way you would be if you used your credit card. Now, the one thing, though, is the apps are typically a little more protected when it comes to these kind of events, because your credit card, again, more sensitive, doesn't offer a lot of protection outside of your wallet, and actually in your wallet. But the apps in your phone have a little bit more protection to begin with. It's maybe less likely that you're going to get that walk by in a crowded arena or festival or something and have somebody ghost tap you.
I know, like, they sell, like, so I have a wallet that has RFID shielding. Does that prevent this kind of ghost tap?
Well, that's one thing that I think some of the analysts that I talked to recommended, that people get that kind of, wallet. I bought one recently for somebody in my family who has a hard time keeping track of their credit cards and what they've used them for. But yes, that's something. I have a little metal case. I don't think it offers necessarily that much protection, but it makes me feel safer somehow, that you can't get exactly to my credit cards, say, directly. But yeah, and then they recommend that you be vigilant as a consumer about what's looking at your bank statements, your credit card statements, to see if you've been charged for these things, because people just don't look, and people don't look at receipts, to
Yeah.
see
And they have auto payment and all
auto
that
pay.
sort of
Yeah.
thing.
So they don't think about it anymore the same, in the same.
So I got to tell you the truth. If I was starting a new company right now, and you can never tell, I may still have one more in me. I would create an AI agent that goes through your bank and credit card statements, looking for subscriptions, duplicates,
Right.
things that don't seem right. Right. I know, like, the ramp system, for instance, does a good job of matching receipts to actual charges and all of that stuff. But I think we need that for consumers and we already do have some that'll like Apple will show you what subscriptions they have. And I
Right.
think there's already an app that
Rocket Money will do that too.
yeah, but we need something a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more autonomous, right? That every time you get a tap, it notes it, and then it's going to track that going forward and everything else.
Yeah.
But I think there's something
I think-
there, especially for older people.
I think, well, yes. And I think although, my experience with older people, and I mean, I'm talking about older than me, is they're a little more vigilant about checking
Right?
receipts.
Maybe you're right. Maybe younger people.
You're on
The
a fixed
younger
income, you
people
probably do that, right?
I don't,
I think Terry's got a good point, because the cyber generation, the microwave generation, or what have you, they've grown up with these
Right. Older people
these
never
technologies.
trusted
They
it.
just use a thoughtless. Yeah.
Well, and a good case in point, I mean, my own kids who are now grown, but I would, have them on certain of my accounts, like especially when they were in college or whatever. You can, use this to do whatever, and they weren't irresponsible, but sometimes I would say, "What is this?" That I see you were out at such and such, and what is this charge? Or I don't know, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not sure."
Yeah, they're somewhat cavalier about their use.
Yeah, they're definitely cavalier about it, but I also think, I mean, Alan, you're probably right, there's a market for that, right? And an AI agent until that agent gets exploited someplace else in the chain.
Yeah, I mean, and then, and then the ultimate, it's not a product, it's a feature. Eventually, some financial institution just buys that and incorporates it.
Corporates, yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mitch, what are you doing later? You want to work on this?
I'm already vibe coding it. I'll send you the first.
All right. Back in the saddle.
Hey, you'd be surprised how much coding I'm doing.
Yep. Yep. All right. But it is something, especially, very relevant in this holiday shopping time
Yeah,
to be wary of,
be careful out there.
I've also, I'll tell you the truth, I've seen it with duplicate PayPals too.
Yeah.
Online.
Duplicate payments.
yeah.
And
Yep.
Definitely.
there's never duplicate deposits, but there's always
No.
No, I
Never get a
know, what's that
duplicate
all about?
deposit.
It doesn't go the
I'm
other
not
way.
sure why there is.
Never, ever, ever. Crazy. Anyway, if we don't have anything else, yeah, we're about right on time here for a change. So it's a good thing. Panel, gang members, thanks for coming on today. I appreciate it. Hey, we've got, as usual, Techstrong TV coming up behind here, and it's going to be another great Techstrong TV. And then at 2:30 Eastern time, I've got my Shimmy Says this week. And this week, Shimmy's going to give you the Shimmy view of the world about what's going on lately. And it's going to be a good one. So if you're watching this, if you're around 2:30 Eastern time, LinkedIn, Twitter, or X, excuse me, LinkedIn or X, you can see it live.
Still,
And it'll be on YouTube and the usual Techstrong TV network after that.
Agents of Dev podcast too. Check that out.
When will that be out, Mitch?
That's out.
It's
already
out right
official.
now
Yeah, second episode should be up today or tomorrow. Actually, it'll be up today.
on your favorite podcast platforms.
Yep. Agents of Dev.
And it has a really cool opening too.
It does.
I like it.
That's the best.
Guy,
That's the
what
best.
do you have to plug? Anything going in your world?
No.
Oh, you're
I don't want to step on a Shimmy or an Agents of Dev. Those are really excellent. I'm actually pleased to say that I am not going to be engaging in any events or streaming content for about a month.
Good
So-
for you, man. Except here
Yeah.
on Techstrong Gang.
Except for here on Techstrong Gang, yes.
Absolutely. All right. Until tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. This is Alan Shimel on behalf of Techstrong and Techstrong Gang. We're out of here.